Well, the intro clip didn't play. It said your browser failed to play the intro. That's not a good sign. I hope that doesn't mean that the Vols are going to have a rough outing this week. Um, oh well. Hey, it's the Vol Bros. So welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. Um, our intro wasn't working today. I don't know what was going on there. Zach, we're doing great, buddy. Zach said, "How's Rustin Evan doing tonight?" Doing really well. I was actually out working in the garage, cleaning our garage out the past 2 days, and came across a whole bunch of old family photos. So tomorrow on Twitter, you might see a photo of the Vol Bros circa 1987. um, pretty fun stuff. Seeing all that kind of stuff. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Well, my goodness, 3:30 CBS game. Uh, Checker Nealon, Texas A&M, Bobby Petrino, Jim Chaney returns to Neyland Stadium this weekend. What a matchup! Oh, Jimbo Fisher too. I guess he'll be there too. What a tremendous matchup! Uh, very exciting. So we got three questions. Kelly, welcome, Kelly. Good to have you with us. They ask what's on tap tonight. So great question. Uh, Zach said he wasn't even born in '87. I was 2 years old in 1987.
I was
So
not.
yeah. um, we always answer three questions. What do we want to see? Who's going to have a big game? And our score prediction. So we're going to start off about Texas A&M this weekend. Rustin, what do you want to see against Texas A&M this weekend?
So I have three things. I don't know that I want to see it, but I think we have to see it. My first one is our offensive line, specifically left guard and right tackle, have to have big games. It'll be interesting to see if Josh Heupel puts the tight end on the left side of the formation a lot, because that would pull Shamar Turner to that side of the field, which means he'd be blocked by John Campbell, which is a much better situation for us. The more he's on the right side of the formation, the more he's having to be blocked by either Gerald Mincey or Jeremiah Crawford, and I do not like that matchup at all. So I hope we see a whole lot of tight end to the left or trips to the left, so that Shamar Turner is always lining up over John Campbell. If he gets over Mincey, I think that could dictate the whole game, honestly. If Gerald Mincey or Jeremiah Crawford's able to contain him, then we can have a big day. If he gets to run wild on them, it's not going to be good. And then the other one is left guard. Ollie Lane is going to have his first real test. If it, on the moments when Shamar Turner is lined up over Gerald Mincey or Jeremiah Crawford, Ollie Lane's going to have Walter Nolan. And again, another reason why I like the tight end to always be on the left side, because that puts Shamar Turner over John Campbell, and it puts Walter Nolan over Javonte Spraggins. And I think that helps us significantly. So hopefully the offensive staff is coming up with ways to make sure those guys always line up like that, because I don't like the opposite. I don't like our chances. I don't think it bodes well at all. So I think that's the first thing I'm watching for. The second thing I'm watching for is, alongside, how often do we go trips left, strength to the left, tight end left? How does Josh Heupel reinvent the offense without Brew? What does that look like? Does it become lots and lots of formations away from Ramel Keaton to get him one-on-ones? Does it become move Squirrel around a lot more and try to get him the ball in space and new things they haven't shown before? Does it mean that Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod become a much more significant part of the offense? I think all those things are yet to be seen, and I'm curious to see how they, or is it all of it? It could be literally all of it. I'm curious to see how they go with that. And then the third thing I want to see is, and I think this is important, right now we are allowing right now 115 rushing yards per game. Texas A&M is averaging 145 rushing yards per game. That 30-yard difference could be really important, and we have to contain Le'Veon Moss. If we don't contain Le'Veon Moss, don't like our chances.
Okay, so let me ask you this: name the third starting wide receiver. Ramel Keaton, Squirrel White, and
Caleb Webb.
That's who I think it'll be too. So the thing I want to see is exactly what you said at the beginning. This game, if you enjoy just core football, you have to be, no matter who you are, no matter who you're a fan of, you have to be looking forward to this game, because the trenches are going to be some of the best, that you see matchup, wise all year. Can Tennessee's offensive line get enough push on the Texas A&M defensive line to open up holes for the running game? Can they do it? If they can, Tennessee wins. If they can't, they don't. I mean, it's really that simple. Can Tennessee's offensive line hold up against this really, really good defensive line from Texas A&M? So that's what I want to see. I want to see him hold up. I want to see him hold up and play well. And if they do that, I think we win the game. Some other folks said, Kelly said she wants to see the defensive line get great push. Okay, Kelly, I got to ask, because I know a Kelly. I go to church with a Kelly, and he's a guy, but I'm thinking you might be a lady. And so we've only got like 2 ladies who consistently join us. So I would love it if you were the third. If you can let us know in the comments, that'd be. See, here's another. So the only 10 you see, she's one of our other ladies that always joins us, and we're so glad you're here. She said, "Yeah, made it in early." Let's see. That she also said, "I want to see your offense against this one high safety defense they seem to love." Well, hey, I'm all for that. I mean, absolutely. You get somebody going over the middle to get Squirrel running a post route to get somebody over the middle, occupy that safety, and let's throw the ball down the sideline to Ramel.
Kelly didn't help our percentages.
Hey, Kelly, we appreciate it, man. So that's why I asked. I was just curious. Okay. It's good to have you, Kelly. I'm glad you're with us.
To what the only 10 you see just said, that goes back to my second point about how Josh Heupel reinvents the offense. She's exactly right. A&M plays a lot of one high defensive looks. And so that's one reason why I think we'll probably get a lot of trips to the left side away from Ramel Keaton, because number one, it makes Shamar Turner have to move to that side of the formation, which puts him on John Campbell. But the other thing it does, because they're in that one high safety look, because Squirrel would be in the slot on the opposite side of the field, the safety has to cheat to that hash, because he can't cover Squirrel deep if he stays in the middle of the field. And so that creates a lot of one-on-one opportunities with no safety help for Ramel Keaton. And so I think that'll probably be a big part of what they do. It'll be interesting to see. DJ Durkin over the years has kind of reinvented himself mid-season. He'll run one system for the first half of the season, then the second half he'll mix it up and do different things. So it'll be interesting to see if he tries to add some things like, show one high and have a nickel back or somebody drop off as a second safety, to try to confuse Joe Milton. But if they continue to run that one high system, they've got to cheat to Squirrel's side, which could make for a big day for Ramel Keaton.
Zach said he wants to see more of the running game. And 2, can we stay focused after our Super Bowl win against South Carolina? I like that. That's good. That's good. Kelly said the same thing. He wants to see the offensive line, block well enough that we can run the ball. Absolutely. Zach said he thinks that it'll either be Webb or Nimrod as the third receiver on the starting the game. I would agree with that. I'm predicting Webb as well. Kelly said it's not the first time he's been asked that question in his life. Go Big Orange. Hey, I figure, man. I appreciate it. We're glad you're with us. Robert said, I believe we can run the ball up against this team. I hope so. If we do, we win. I mean, it's really that simple.
I hope that's
Um,
true. To this point, nobody's really run the ball well against them. People have had success in spurts, but nobody's been able to sustain long drives. Um, so, again, I think it's going to be all about formation. If we can get the right matchups up front, I think we can run the ball. But the more times Walter Nolan lines up over Ollie Lane and Shamar Turner lines up over Gerald Mincey, I don't like those odds. We need to avoid that.
so we've had a couple comments come in here that lead right into our next question. So the comments have come in that says, Carl said, go Vols. McCastles is a dude this game. Becomes our go-to on third down guy. Man, I hope so. We need him to have a big game, honestly. That he had a couple drops 2 weeks ago. They need him to have a really big game. Zach said, let's see Dante Thornton Jr. have a break. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. He's just got to catch the ball. I mean, like he's dropped 2 this year that were literally hitting him right in the hands. So he's got to catch it. He's got to catch it. They need him to have a big game.
We said it last week. I could very much see them revert back to a lot of what they did last year with the 2 tight end look, where Jacob Warren is more the true tight end and McAllen Castles is the H back, and that is a way they could create some issues for people, because both of those guys can go run good routes. They can catch the ball out of the backfield easily. They could create some problems for people with that. And having those 2 tight ends in there dictates the strength for the defense and allows them more leverage running the ball. So it could be that we see a ton of Jacob Warren and McAllen Castles at the same time.
Let's see here. Kelly said we need Castles to have a huge back half of the season, not just a game. Amen. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Which also, the more they do that, the less they need the third receiver. They can put, and what they really can do, honestly, and this I bet Josh Heupel will do a lot of this. They can create isolation in 2 spots. If they have, the tight end and the H back in there, it pulls the defense in. Then they can spread Squirrel way out on an island and put that corner on an island against Squirrel, and have Ramel off, below the numbers in his normal location, putting stress on that corner. And, all of a sudden they kind of have to pick their poison. They've either got to move everybody up and stop the run and hope Squirrel and Ramel can be contained by a corner, or they've got to back the safeties and nickels off, which makes it easy to run the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see a lot of that.
Carl said we need the front 7 for A&M to be gassed. Absolutely. That use that tempo to our advantage. Absolutely use that tempo to our advantage. Let's see here. Brennan just joined us. I see you like the stream on Facebook. Welcome, Brennan. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. It's still weird calling it that, but that's what it's called. Welcome if you're on X, formerly the artist known as Twitter. Let's see here. Making sure we don't have any questions coming through on Twitter because they don't show up on the stream here. So our question, and the only 10 you see just asked really good question. I'm going to put hers up here in just a second because it's going to lead into my answer for this question. Who do you think is going to have a big game, Rustin?
Whew.
You want me to put the only 10 you see's question up here first?
Sure.
So let's see. The only 10 you see said, do you think we should utilize Dylan Sampson more against Texas A&M since he can find and slip through smaller gaps better than the other 2? And, I think it was last Thursday night, we were talking about Dylan Sampson specifically, and we were joined by Tyler Goldberg last Thursday night, and he said that, this could be very similar to 2016 at Texas A&M when Alvin Kamara just had a tremendous game.
Yeah.
He had Alvin had, I think it was like 283 all-purpose yards for the game. It was just crazy, the game he had. And so we were talking about, this could be that kind of game for Dylan. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Dylan, because that leads into who I think is going to have a big game. And all traditional logic does not support my answer to this question. So I know I'm really selling it really well right off the bat. I think Jabari Small is going to have a huge game this week. And it's solely because I think we're finally going to see him be ticked off. Here's a guy who has been the starting tailback for the last 2 or 3 years, or 2 years. And now nobody's talking about him. They're talking about Jalen Wright. They're talking about Dylan Sampson. And I think we're going to see him play a little something extra this week. Like he's got something to prove. Like, hey, you remember me? Yeah, I'm still back here too. So I think that's what I think that's the attitude we're going to see out of Jabari Small this week. And I think he's just going to have a fantastic game. I mean, he had a tremendous game against South Carolina. That rush he had, where he went back against the grain and took off down the sideline for like a 20, 30-yard gain. I mean, it was beautiful. So I think we're going to see Jabari Small play really well, just to remind everybody that, he's still back there. But I do think Dylan Sampson will also have a tremendous game. You might see them try to take advantage of the aggressiveness and aggressive nature of Texas A&M's defensive line by having him do that little shovel pass, to try to sneak past the line real quick. I would not be shocked if we saw that on Saturday. But I mean, it could be Alvin Kamara 2.0 this week, 2016 A&M game all over again. Let's see. Ooh, I like Zach's answer. Zach said, I'm going to go with someone that no one will pick. I'm saying Arion Carter. I love it. I would love for him to have a huge game. If they do, then that means we're stopping their rushing attack. So that'd be good. Carl said the Vols are due for Joe and the receivers to have success. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Brennan said Dylan Sampson is going to be a key player. Yep, agreed. Absolutely. And Zach said, I think that Arion Carter will have 2 sacks, 5 or 6 tackles for loss. Dude, sign me up. I mean, if that's happening, that means he's shooting gaps in the line and getting in the backfield, making plays in the backfield when they hand the ball off. I mean, if that's happening, we're stopping their run. The only 10 you see, so I think about Small every time we have a short yardage, short and goal to go. He's always on my mind. He's a tremendous back. I mean, that's the beauty that we have in that backfield. We have 3 tremendous running backs. So, Rustin, it's your turn. Who you think's going to have a big game?
So, who do I think's going to have a big game? I'm going to go with either Dylan Sampson, because the A&M linebackers don't cover well. And I think that Josh Heupel and staff will recognize that, and they will try to create opportunities to throw Dylan Sampson the ball in space, especially off play action, where linebackers have to step in and defend the run first and then try to go cover him. I could see him, similar to what you said, Alvin Kamara, it was about all-purpose yards, not rushing yards. I could see Dylan Sampson having a big game catching the ball. Even for that matter, Jabari Small, he catches the ball well out of the backfield. I think either one of them, I don't think either one of them can be covered by A&M's linebackers. They're just not very good at coverage. The other one I would say is Ramel Keaton, especially if A&M does stay in that one high system, and the safety has to cheat to Squirrel's side. So I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for Ramel Keaton. Now, that's who I think will have a big game. Here's who I think has to have a big game. Tim Banks. He is facing easily his toughest opponent so far this year, honestly, maybe of the entire season.
Agreed. Yes.
The best play caller on Tennessee's schedule is in the other press box this weekend. And
his analyst is pretty dang good too.
Yes, he is. So when you're sitting there trying to figure out how to stop Bobby Petrino, you can't. You're not going to stop Bobby Petrino, but you can stop Max Johnson. And so I hope Tim Banks has made the decision that he's not going to try to figure out Bobby Petrino. He's going to try to confuse and fool Max Johnson as much as humanly possible.
Yes.
Because Max Johnson will turn the ball over. He has shown that time and time again. I saw a stat last week. I want to say after last Saturday's game, Max Johnson has now played in, it was absurd. It was something like he's played in 13 games as a starter, and he has 18 turnovers in those 13 games he started. The dude will turn the ball over. So, if we can force him into places of confusion, make him, force some throws because he doesn't understand the coverage he's seeing in front of him, I think that's where we can win this game, is taking advantage of him.
100% agree. They have to live in the backfield, making him very, very uncomfortable. And, our fans, this is an opportunity for them to have an impact on this game as well. We'll get to some comments by Gary Danielson that personally I think we're taking a little bit out of context, but we'll get to those in a minute. Provides fuel for the fire nonetheless. Kelly said he thinks Milton and Beasley have to have good games. Oh man. Okay, here's the thing. If we come out of this game and what we're talking about is Joe Milton, then we've won. Like that's the way that goes down. If Joe's throwing the ball over the field and we're actually connecting on deep balls repeatedly, we've won the game. Because Max Johnson and their offense won't be able to keep up. This is too good. But side note, how nice is it to say that for a change? Like, that's a really nice thing to say. The only 10 UC said, nodding along with Rustin, Tim Banks is our make or break. Definitely. Man, that's a good one. I agree. I totally agree. Zach, I hate to break it to you, buddy. Zach said Gary Danielson's the worst announcer ever. Please tell me he's not calling the game. He is. And I hate to break it to you, but he will also have Tennessee's game next week as well.
Yep.
Back-to-back weeks with good old Gary.
The mute button is your friend.
This week I got to produce the podcast for Josh Mancuso and Todd Blackledge. And so that we did this segment called Ask Todd. And people got to send in questions to ask Todd. And Rustin sent in a question that said, use it? He wouldn't let me. I wanted to. Rustin sent in a question that said, does Gary Danielson annoy you as much as he does the rest of us? And Josh loved it. He thought it was hilarious, but he said I couldn't use it. So instead,
which is really, let's be honest, that's really code for Todd agreed but didn't want to say it on air. That's really what that means.
So interestingly, in the past, I think it was their very first. This was their third episode that they did this week. Their first episode, Josh brought Gary Danielson up to Todd Blackledge, and he said, he goes, all I'm going to say, Todd, is that I think you can beat him in an arm wrestling match. And so he mentioned that again yesterday or 2 days ago when we were recording, or whenever that was, yesterday. Man, time flies. Brendan said, nah, Vern Lundquist was the worst announcer ever. Jalen Meeves-Rabin. I'll never forget that. Jalen Meeves-Rabin. That was at Florida again. Let's see. When it was at Florida. That's right. And instead of Reeves-Maben, he called Jalen Meeves-Rabin. I'll never forget that. That was a Vern Lundquist special there. Carl said Lundquist and Danielson were an albatross around the Vols' necks for decades. That's funny. I like that.
You know what's amazing though? Like, it doesn't matter from week to week. A couple weeks ago, he called an Alabama game, and the Alabama fans were just losing their minds online about Gary Danielson. So it's equal opportunity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he's calling. He messes it up on everybody.
Um, so our third question, because then we're going to come back to Gary in just a moment and what he said today. I've got the full quote, and so I'll read the full quote. Because what was put on Twitter is not what he said. Shockingly, I know, like that is shocking that something might get misrepresented on Twitter.
Don't
We'll
let
blame,
facts get in the way of a good story.
yeah, we'll blame the 240 character limit on Twitter. That they just had to condense it down, so that's what happened. Um, so let's go to our last question of the day: score prediction. Rustin, what is your score prediction for this week?
34-31 Vols.
Oh, I think that's great. I think that's a great one. Oh man, yeah. So here's my thing. I don't trust. It's just this is really tough for me. I almost said 28-27 Tennessee because man, I think it's going to be close. But then I realized if we do that, then we have not made a field goal the whole game long, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to say 27-24 Tennessee wins. So it's interesting. Both of us pick them by 3. Both of us have them making 2 field goals on the day.
I picked them by 3 because that's the current line in Vegas.
Oh, well, that's not why I picked them by 3.
They always know, so I just
That's
go with
true.
Vegas.
Yeah, I just don't see. I don't see tremendous amounts of offensive success for either team in this game. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we're throwing the ball, as Steve Spurrier used to say. I hope we're throwing the ball around the yard a little bit. I mean, I hope we're throwing it all over the place. I just don't know if Joe will have enough time to do that. If we're hitting quick slants like crazy, hey, sign me up. I think we can do it. But I just don't think we'll be able to let Joe drop back. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen.
But again, that's where somebody like Dylan Sampson can be really effective, because if they're bringing a lot of pressure, that means there's nobody covering the flats, which means you can throw flares to him, you can throw screens to him. Like there's a lot you can do to put them in a bind and get him in a lot of really successful situations.
Yeah, that's very true. And y'all let us know in the comments what you think will happen with the score prediction as well. Zach said Texas A&M is gutted like a stuffed pig on a Hawaiian luau. I love it. That is so descriptive. They are not ready for Tennessee. 42-24 Vols. Man, I hope you're right, Zach. Oh, that would be just wonderful. I would love that. What a wonderful afternoon we'll all have if that happens. Man, I hope you're right. The only 10 you see said Evan thinks we're going to have a defensive dogfight. I 100% do, yes, because I don't think their offensive line is going to be able to contain our defensive line and our front 7 as a whole. I think we're going to be in the backfield a lot. I don't think our offensive line is going to be able to contain their defensive line all game long. I think we'll have spurts, but they're just too good. I mean, they're just too good. They have too much talent on the defensive line.
There may not be anybody in the country playing as well as Shamar Turner right now.
And so, I just don't think we're going to be able to control them all game long. That's just my take on it. I hope I'm wrong. This is a good point. She said that I'm actually worried about Elijah Herring more than anybody else. When I look at film, he looks lost out there and has slower reaction time. Would love to see him replaced with T-Lander. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. If you go back and you watch on that run at Florida that everybody talks about, Kamal Hadden, when he just kind of gave the dude a friendly shoulder bump and didn't try to tackle him. If you go back and watch about 1/2 of a second before the shoulder nudge, like, hey, good job, buddy. Right before that, Elijah Herring was so out of position. He actually got blocked in the back because the running back went behind him. Yep. And he's trying to turn around like this to get back to him. So yeah, that's a fair point. He had a much better game against South Carolina, so let's hope that he continues to play better. Let's hope. Carl, I love it. He said 38-10 Vols. Why? Because it cost me nothing. If Carl says it, it's true. That's the way that's what we've learned. Carl is currently leading our college football pick'em challenge by 2 games. If Carl predicts it, it's true. So we're going with that 38-10. So let it be written. So let it be done. Carl has said it.
To what the only 10 you see said, I'll tell you what I could honestly see happening a lot this Saturday is a lot of Aaron Beasley and Arian Carter in at the same time. I could also see a lot of Caleb Perry because one thing we know about Bobby Petrino, he loves to throw to the running backs out of the backfield, does it all the time. So, guys who don't cover well, Elijah Herring, Jeremiah Thielander, Ben Bolton, they may actually play less. And this week may be a lot of Aaron Beasley and Arian Carter in there because they've got to be able to cover backs.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Brennan said if we have a few big plays and our offensive line holds, I think it's 38-24 Vols win. I'd love that. I mean, here's my thing. If Tennessee gets into the 30s, we win, in my opinion. Like that, I do not think Texas A&M can score 30 points against us. I just don't. And so if Tennessee gets into the 30s, we win. I mean, that has to be the case, surely. And so, I mean, hey, I'm all for that. If they get into the 30s, let's make it happen. Zach said, I have to point out Rustin's shirt. Go Braves. Absolutely. Go Braves. They're playing right now. I don't know what the score is, but
1-1 in the 5th.
There you go. There you go.
Correction.
So
home run Trey Turner, 2-1 Phillies in the 5th.
That's not good.
Literally right as I said it.
Fort Rep 1. Hey, welcome, Fort Rep 1. Good to have you with us. I said, I think the crowd will have a major factor. We have to bring the noise. 42-14 Vols win. Oh my goodness. Sign me up. Like that would be wonderful.
If that happens, Bobby Petrino leaves in a neck roll.
That would be amazing. Here's the thing. And Carl said, true, Rustin, believe pressures on Johnson. Petrino will use back as safety valve. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. They got the guy who can score points at calling plays. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Because Zach said, you're bringing bad news, Rustin.
Just reporting it as it happens.
Yeah. I mean, they can certainly dial up plays to score. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But right now, offensively, you don't have your starting quarterback if you're Texas A&M. You're coming into an environment that is going to be crazy loud. You're going up against a defense that ranks first in the SEC for yards per play. You're going up against a defense that ranks first in the SEC in tackles for loss and sacks. I mean, they're not going to score 30. I know that. That's not going to happen. So if we make it to the 30s, you got to like the Vols' chances in that situation.
Yeah.
So let's go to what Gary said today. If you've read Twitter at all, then it sounds like Gary Danielson said there's not really much of a difference between Neyland Stadium and every other SEC stadium. It's all the same.
That's what he said.
Yeah. That's actually, I think I just quoted word for word what I read on Twitter earlier today. I'm going to read you the actual quote. Now, it's still not a glowing review of Neyland Stadium, but what I just said is actually not what Gary Danielson said. Here is the full quote from Gary Danielson. This is not a criticism, just an observation. It has nothing to do with Neyland per se or any other stadium. Home field advantage. He's talking about home field advantage, so they just put that in parentheses. He said it's about the same every week, whether you're playing at Ole Miss or LSU or Florida in the swamp or Georgia. For a football player, loud is loud. I don't know if it makes any difference if there's 80,000 loud people or 100,000 loud people. That's what he said. Now, is he implying that it's kind of the same at Neyland as everywhere else? Yeah, that's what he's implying. But objectively speaking, first of all, this is scientifically measurable. There is a meter that measures the volume at every SEC stadium. So objectively speaking, he's wrong. Now, take that out of it. Zach makes a good point. Ask Bama last year, Gary. That's a good point. If I know I'm wearing an orange shirt right now. I get that. You may not see them, but I actually always wear. I've got orange glasses on right now too that I see through every week. So if I remove my orange glasses just for a moment, and objectively I look at what Ole Miss is, what Vaught Hemingway, isn't that the name of their stadium?
Yep.
Yeah. So if I look at Vaught Hemingway Stadium and I look at Neyland Stadium, no, those are not the same. I'm sorry. First of all, there's way less people, but secondly, the actual structural design of the stadium makes it not the same. If you go to Vaught Hemingway Stadium, it's not as tall as Neyland, and there's gaps in the corners so sound can escape. One of the things that is so bizarre about Neyland is that the physical shape of the stadium is conducive to amplifying sound. And it's visually intimidating because I would venture to guess if they were going to make a new Neyland Stadium, like something crazy happened, they made a new Neyland Stadium, I would venture to guess that the pitch, the steep of the upper bowl is now illegal. If I had to guess, like I'm sure there are like laws in place and stuff that any new construction stadiums cannot have the same pitch as the upper bowl in Neyland Stadium, because I mean, dude, you're like straight. It feels like you're going straight up. I mean, like it's wild, and it looks that way when you're on field level. That's the thing, is like it's not like people are spread out; they're on top of you in Neyland Stadium. That's the difference, and there's no escape for the sound. So there's no gaps in the corners. The height of the stadium plays into that. So it's perfectly designed to amplify sound on field level. That's the difference. That's the difference. If you go watch, I'll go back to the South Carolina game. Rustin and I were there. We got to hear it. It was crazy loud. At one point, it hit 117 decibels on the decibel meter. But just ignore that, even though that's a scientifically measurable thing. Go watch the replay from SEC Network. And if you go to Vaught Hemingway Stadium, you have no problem hearing Cole Kublik on the sideline when he's doing a sideline report. They specifically did a segment during the game 2 weeks ago where Cole was standing on the sideline and he was talking about how loud it was in the stadium, and you could barely even hear him talking because it was so loud all behind him. And he's talking right in the microphone. I've never seen on a television broadcast they do a segment specifically with the sideline reporter just to demonstrate how loud it is in the stadium at that moment. And, you know, the fact that I had to rewind it 3 times just to hear all the stuff he said, and I still didn't even catch the last couple words because it was so loud. No, that's different. That's different. And so I'm sure that Texas A&M was like, "Dadgummit, Gary, why'd you say that?" Because now he just gave them a little extra ump. So that's my thing. And some people have chimed in. Brennan said Gary's never been on the field, obviously. Let's see. The only Tennessee said, if it ain't a Gator, Gary don't love it. I like that. That's good. Brendan said, ask any Bama player last year. Yep, that's what Zach said. I totally agree. Zach said even Tom Brady will be scared to play. The only Tennessee, good point. The only Tennessee said there are quotes from the previous players that literally said our stadium was the toughest to play in because of the noise. She is exactly right.
Cole said it last week on the sideline. Like,
yep.
And that was my thing with the whole deal. As a color commentator, what was even the point of making that statement?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there was number one, it's not valid. Again, like you said, we have actual decibel readers. Like, we can actually see, yes, this is significantly louder than Missouri. He essentially just equated Neyland Stadium to Vanderbilt. I mean, any rational person can walk in and go, the only time Vandy's loud is when Tennessee's playing at Vandy.
Yeah, for real.
So you can't. It's a lunatic statement to even make.
Brennan said last year we had 125 when we beat Bama. That's true. I think actually at one point in the game it got up to 129.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
that was the record.
It was like 128.6 or something. It almost hit 129.
And that was the record. That's the record at Neyland now. That's exactly right. Gary's just talking out of his moon. That's why people don't take him seriously. Gary just realizes he's disliked as much at Vandy or Tuscaloosa as Neyland, so no big deal if 65,000 think you suck or 100,000 plus.
Yep.
So I mean, it's objectively, that's the thing. Like, don't make statements that, I mean, I get he's saying loud's loud, 80,000, 100,000 doesn't matter. You just can't hear. It's loud.
But even that, it's just not true because
right.
You go to Starkville. And they're ringing those stupid cowbells the whole game. Do you ever see anybody jump off sides in Starkville because of the cowbells? No, it doesn't happen because they don't get that loud. Do you see people, South Carolina, do you see people jump off sides because of crowd noise? Yeah. So to even make that statement, it's just, it makes zero sense.
So I want to go back to what the only 10UC said when she said there are quotes from previous players that literally said our stadium was the toughest to play in because of the noise. So I want to go back to what the Oklahoma 2015. There was an offensive lineman for Oklahoma who had these words to say about Neyland Stadium. And this isn't the full quote. I got to find the full quote.
Well, the full quote is in the Admiral Schofield video that we made to demonstrate how much louder Neyland is than everywhere else.
That's true, actually, yes. Let's see. Ty Darlington was the guy's name.
Zach just asked who's going to be.
Here it is.
Go ahead.
So I just found it. So he is the former offensive lineman, Ty Darlington for Oklahoma. He was in Neyland on September 12th for the home opener that year.
Josh
he said, I was never
Baker Mayfield.
That's exactly right. Yes, the double overtime game. He said, I was never a big believer in home field advantage. I scoffed at the notion that a fan could actually have an impact on a football game. You have a hostile crowd? Good. I feed off of hostile crowds, and I embrace it when fans ridicule me. You think you're loud? Whatever. We use a silent count anyways, and noise is only a factor on 3 to 4 plays a game. Your home field advantage is incredibly overrated. Bring it on. You're wasting your breath. The Vol faithful made it absolutely impossible to communicate. So he totally, he starts off with I was always like, nah, it's not a big deal. And then he was like, except this one. He said, on the first drive, we had to change our snap count because even our silent count was ineffective against that wall of noise. I came off the field after that first drive and reassured Coach Bedenbaugh that the fans would settle down in due time and that noise was not going to be an issue going forward. Boy, was I wrong. This is the part that Admiral quoted. The noise was a constant oppressive force. I could literally feel it on my skin. Oh man, that gives me goosebumps even talking about it. This was a former opponent at Neyland saying this. But these fans weren't just loud on the first drive or just on third down or just in the fourth quarter. It was every single play. On the offensive line, we couldn't hear Baker's play calls. We couldn't make our own combo calls, and we couldn't communicate checks and alerts verbally. We resorted to a makeshift hand signaling system that was at times more confusing than informative. At times, we were much more worried about simply knowing the play than we were about actually executing it. That night in Neyland Stadium, playing football seemed all but impossible, and that can be attributed as much to the men and women in the stands as to the uniformed men on the field itself. That night, as I boarded the flight back to Norman with Rocky Top ringing in my ears, I realized that I had been converted from a man skeptical of fan impact to a man in awe of it. Woo-hoo-hoo!
And
What a
somehow
quote, baby.
still find a way to lose.
Yep. What a quote. That is absolutely just tremendous compliment. I mean, and so well written and worded. I mean, that was just amazing. I love it. And that's an opponent who played in Neyland saying that. Man, sign me up for that we should read that at every show now, just because it gets me pumped up. We should read that every single week. I love it. Carl loved it too. Look, he loved it.
Zach asked who's going to be worse, the refs or Gary Danielson. It's the SEC, Zach. It's always going to be the refs.
Yeah. And Zach said, welcome home, Russ. He's back from Mississippi.
So ironically, next Thursday night, I'll be doing this from Florida. So
yeah. So only 10 you see said other quotes about Neyland, Baker Mayfield, Will Anderson Jr., Bob Davis. Yep, absolutely. Brady Quinn. Yep, Baker's came up when I Google searched the one I just did just then.
Yep.
Let's see.
Brady Quinn said it was the loudest stadium he's ever been in, and there's been no comparison.
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield's his words were Neyland Stadium was unbelievable. When he was asked which stadium other than his own that he enjoyed playing in the most, he said Neyland. I mean, it's just different. It's just different. People are literally on. It feels like they're on top of you because of the way that stadium is built. Carl said, "Oh man, I forgot about the refs." Yeah. Hey, we get Gary Danielson for 2 weeks, guys, back-to-back weeks, because, and you know,
why are we being punished?
Yeah, I get that too. I hate that we have, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, we have to have 2 weeks of Gary, but I am glad that the third Saturday in October will be the 3:30 CBS game. And here's why. I actually tweeted that Brian Rice mentioned this on Twitter a couple days ago when I guess on Monday when that was announced. And I quote tweeted him from our Volbros account. Rustin and I both tweet from the Volbros account. So you never know really who it is.
If it's nice, it's him. If it's not, it's me.
But I mean, you know, Brian said he thought it was appropriate for Tennessee to the last Tennessee-Alabama game in the SEC on CBS era. It's appropriate for that game to be the game of the week on CBS. And I totally agree, because people can say whatever they want. And I know that there are probably better, stronger rivalries out there than Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, you've got, you know, Tennessee or Alabama, Auburn. People will say that's more important. You got Michigan, Ohio State. People will say they'll say that's the best rivalry in sports. I mean, you've got all these people saying these things, but it is not. You can't deny the fact that the SEC was made and formed for Tennessee and Alabama to play each other. Like, that's why the SEC, you can still go to the hotel in Knoxville where it was the SEC was signed into like being. And it was because of the historical dominance of Tennessee and Alabama. Um, the conference was formed around them. That's why in 1992, when they went to the divisions for the first time in history, Tennessee and Alabama were the permanent crossover opponent. Why? Because it's the historic rivalry within the SEC. It is the rivalry that formed our conference. That's just the way it is. Like, and people can be like, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're Tennessee fan." No, I'm not. Like, that's the facts. That's the way it is. And so, I think it is very appropriate that next week, the Tennessee Alabama game, for the last time in the history of SEC on CBS, that it's appropriate for that game to be the covered game by that. So I'm happy that happened. One thing that's happening this week that we haven't mentioned yet is SEC Nation and Marty and McGee will be broadcasting live from Ayers, the lawn at Ayers Hall.
And
On
Feinbaum. Feinbaum's
Yep.
doing his whole 3 hours there Friday.
So that'll be this weekend. So that'll be good. That'll be fun to watch. Let's see. Zach said next year no more CBS, but I still think we'll get Gary Daniels. They'll find a way to make it happen. Carl said the only 10 you see keeps coming with these hot takes. Salute. Yeah, for sure. The only 10 you see, man, she's got it going on with the comments and the questions. She always brings like awesome questions and stuff. We love having her with us. Let's see. Zach said not to get sidetracked. Coffee mug broke today, so you guys have a good one. He's got to wake up early in the morning.
I think he's ordering a coffee mug.
Oh, I totally misread that. Okay. Hey, awesome. We do have one. Rustin, why don't you entertain folks and I'll pull that up on our website right now.
Well, I think one thing we've missed that I wanted to spotlight, if any of you saw it today, cornerback out of Milton High School, 2025 corner Dylan Lewis committed to Tennessee today over Auburn and Clemson. That was a big one for me. His father and I used to work together. I've been trying to convince Dylan since he was in 8th grade that he needed to be a Vol. Dylan was considered at one point the top 8th grader in America by 247. So he is going to be a big time player. Tennessee got a good one there to go along with another Milton DB. Think about how talented this Milton High School team is. They've got a safety in the 24 class that has signed with Florida. And in the 25 class, they now have 2 corners, Dylan Lewis and Shamar Arnaud, who have both signed with or committed to Tennessee. So pretty cool that, Milton High School has 3 current starting defensive backs going to the SEC, and 2 of them will be in Knoxville.
Absolutely. So here are all the different coffee mugs we have on our website right now. You got that beautiful Volbros ones. We have one that says Everything School. We have one that says Tennessee Mom. Zach, that probably won't work.
That's perfect for you, Zach.
Mud Dwellers, that was from basketball season last year. Go Big Orange with the basketball logo. Go Big Orange with the state of Tennessee. Our TriStar one, love that one. There you go. You can see the state outline there. And then Home Sweet Home across the state. Battered Vol Syndrome Survivor. We got that one.
That's you, Zach. You need a BVS mug.
So really, really a lot of choices there on our website. I will put this link in the comments for anyone who would like a coffee mug. Brendan said the TriStar mug is awesome. Totally agree. Thank you very much. Totally agree. All these wonderful coffee mugs are very affordable at $14.99. That is just a tremendous price. So I just put a link to that page you're looking at there on the screen in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching on Twitter, let's see here. I will put a comment there as well. Ta-da, done. So if anybody would like one of those mugs, we would certainly appreciate it. That helps offset the cost of when we send honorary bro shirts to our guests. So that would be wonderful if you could check out we have so many things on that site.
And we all
Man,
know the shirt is why they keep showing up. So
that's exactly right. Yes.
If you want to continue to have top level guests on here, you got to buy mugs so we can send out free shirts.
Absolutely. Tons of stuff on that website. Man, look at all this stuff. Wow. Just amazing.
Carl just mentioned Matt Ray had an interview today with Dylan Lewis. I will tell you all, Dylan Lewis is a fantastic kid. I'm talking to his dad right now about getting him on the show one night so he can talk about the recruiting process and Willie Martinez and what Willie meant to Dylan and why. I mean, Willie Martinez is the reason Dylan chose Tennessee. So, he did a fantastic job, but Dylan's a really, really good kid. And Tennessee got a fantastic, not just a great player, but they got a fantastic person with that one.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Zach said he's going to order the Battervall Syndrome Survivor coffee mug. I love it. I think that one comes in some different color options too, Zach.
Zach, look away from your television.
Uh-oh, Braves losing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Carl said he's going to get a bug. Hey, we appreciate that, Carl, very much. He said, but not a Battervall Syndrome Survivor one. Heart carries the scars. I love it. That's great. Zach said he might order 2. He's rough. Hey, I love that, man. $14.99. What a deal on some coffee mugs. What a deal. He said, I want that bro shirt. I think I might be able to hook you up with that, Zach. I think that might happen. Let's see. Yeah, that's everybody. That's awesome. Well, 3:30 Saturday afternoon, CBS, Texas A&M at Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. It's going to be awesome. Man, oh man, hoping the Vols pull it out. Rustin predicts 34-31. I'm saying 27-24. We're all hoping that I can't remember who somebody said 42-12. Who was it that said that? Oh, Fort Rep 1. Fort Rep 1 said 42-12. That's the score we're all hoping for. Let's go for that one. I think Carl said 38-10. I'm cool with that too. Yeah, I'll be happy either way. So we hope everybody has a great evening. We will see everyone back with us on Sunday night. Brendan said, I remember several years ago when Evan and I were talking about the Vols, and he said he has the Battervall syndrome. He said he had Battervall syndrome. And he said, that's awesome that you put it on a shirt. Yep. Appreciate that. That was Rustin's idea. He was like, we should make a shirt that said Battervall Syndrome Survivor. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I made one. Absolutely. So we, Sunday night, that's what I was talking about. Sunday night, 9:00 p.m. We'll have a reaction show. We have already got, Reed Carringer lined up for the week of the Kentucky game. And so that'll be something exciting. We got 3 games, in the month of October: Texas A&M, Alabama, and Kentucky. And Reed was available the night after Kentucky, so we're excited about having him on that Sunday. So only 10 UC said, thanks for a great show, guys. Hey, we appreciate you so much. We're glad you're with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Rob said, yes, good show. Thank you, Rob. We really appreciate that, man. We're glad you're with us. Carl said, thanks so much, guys. Hey, we appreciate you, Carl. You're the man. Carl is our Pick'em Challenge.
He's still leading.
I mean, like savant. That's the word I was looking for. I think the word savant. He is the man at that. So
somehow I went 8-2 last week and still stayed in the bottom third. I'm not real sure how that happened.
Zach said, good night, Rustin. Evan. See you Sunday. Hey, we appreciate you, Zach. Always good to have you with us, man. We hope everybody has a great evening. Here's to an injury-free game that's well played on both sides on Sunday, and hopefully the Vols can come out on top. So when I started the show, it would not play our intro for some reason. Why, I don't know. So we're about to find out if it plays it now. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, we'll sit here awkwardly for a second, waiting for it to start, and then we'll sign off after that. So assuming that it will play it now, I hope everybody has a great evening.